Dolph Lundgren is currently 68, but he still exudes the aura of one who has been around the block several times. With one foot on the red carpet, struck in a pose of effortless charm, there is a hint of resolve in his gaze, a hint of dark Hollywood competitions that were barely kept at bay. For someone who has been watching his life from Rocky IV to his current projects, it is obvious that there are clustered in the distance the rivalries, the jealousies, the unresolved resentments that molded the person he has become. The journey of Dolph Lundgren. Dolph Lundgren was born Hans Lundgren in 1957 in Spånga, Stockholm County, Sweden. His mother, Sigrid, was a foreign language teacher, while his father, Karl, was an engineer and economist employed by the Swedish government. Lundgren had a complex relationship with his dad, who could be strict and even physically abusive at times. He has said that being told he was a loser by his father was one of the motives for making something of himself, although at the same time, he also admired parts of him. He has two sisters, Katarina and Annika, and an older brother, Johan. The young Lundgren was an insecure, allergic kid, whom he would often refer to as the runt of the family. He loved music and dreamed of being a rock star, but he started early with martial arts, judo at 7, Kyokushin karate by 10, and weightlifting was part of his regular teenage life. His father's advice that he needed to go to America if he wanted to achieve anything big stuck, and it helped shape his ambition. After shining in school, Lundgren received academic scholarships in the U.S., where he studied chemical engineering at both Washington State University and Clemson University. He also did his mandatory stint in the Swedish Coastal Artillery. By the late 1970s, he returned to Sweden, graduating from the Royal Institute of Technology with a degree in chemical engineering. Besides academics, he continued developing his skills in karate and finally gained a black belt, which brought him into the Swedish Kyokushin karate team. In 1980 and 1981, he won European championships, and once, at one full-contact tournament in Australia, took the first prize. In 1982, he received a Master's in Chemical Engineering from the University of Sydney. While in Australia, he worked as a nightclub bouncer in Sydney's rough King's Cross district. It was there that he met singer Grace Jones, who hired him as her bodyguard. Their relationship eventually brought him to New York City, where he dabbled in modeling, though his towering muscular build made standard modeling a challenge, and studied acting at the Warren Robertson Theatre Workshop. He mingled with famous artists like Andy Warhol and Keith Haring, and even danced at Studio 54. Friends encouraged him to pursue acting, and soon he left his MIT scholarship behind to follow the path of performance. Lundgren's first film role came in 1985, with a small part as a KGB assassin in A View to a Kill, due to Grace Jones recommending him. That same year, he was handed the role of Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. Though he had been rejected at first because of his height, he eventually beat thousands of hopefuls and trained insistently for 5 months, balancing weightlifting, boxing, and fight choreography. He was hitting so hard that Stallone finished up in intensive care after filming one fight scene. He began landing lead roles by the late 1980s, such as He-Man in Masters of the Universe and the Soviet agent in Red Scorpion, though not all films were received well by critics. Nevertheless, his persona as an action star continued to rise. Throughout the years, he has been involved in numerous films, such as the Expendables series, Aquaman, and Creed II, and has even featured in music videos and commercials, demonstrating that he is open to trying different things with his character. He has also tried his hand at directing, such as with the 2021 film Castle Falls, which was his first directorial outing in more than a decade. From shy, insecure Swedish boy to worldwide action star, Dolph Lundgren's rise melds brains, brawn, and ambition that won't stop. Even today, when he is 65 plus, he continues to reinvent himself, proving that his story is not over yet. Her personal life. Dolph Lundgren divides his time between Stockholm and Los Angeles, and maintains his strong affiliations in Sweden and his involvement in America's film scene. Even if his native language is Swedish, he also speaks English fluently. He knows little French, German, Italian, Japanese, and Spanish. Contrary to reports, he is not fluent in all these languages. Dolph Lundgren spends his time equally in Stockholm and Los Angeles and maintains his affiliations in Sweden as well as his involvement in America's film scene. Apart from films, Lundgren is also a massive football supporter. When he was in Europe, he used to support Everton, while in Los Angeles, he found himself more attracted towards worldwide events such as the UEFA European Championship or the FIFA World Cup. His personal life has been a source of headlines on many occasions. In the 1980s, he dated Grace Jones, a Jamaican singer, and Paula Barbieri, an American model. It was Grace Jones who hired him to be her bodyguard while she noticed him in Australia, pursuing a master's degree in chemical engineering. Eventually, this led him to move to the United States to finish his thesis work and gain some knowledge of the entertainment world. In 1994, Lundgren married Annette Kviberg, a jewelry designer and fashion stylist, in a ceremony held in Marbella, Spain. They fell in love with the region so much that they rented a house to live in for a number of years before purchasing one for themselves. They wanted their children to experience a normal life, away from the chaos that characterized life in Hollywood. They were blessed with two daughters, Ida Sigrid, born in 1996, and Greta Eveline, born in 2001, both in Stockholm. However, life in Marbella was not without danger for them either. In early May 2009, 3 masked burglars attempted to break into their house. They bound and terrified Annette, but soon fled when they spotted the family photograph, realizing that the house belonged to Lundgren. This event also had severe repercussions, as Ida was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, while Annette was severely traumatized as well. In 2011, the couple split and divorced, marking the end of their nearly 2-decade-long marriage. Then he had a relationship with Jenny Sanderson from 2011 to 2017. Later in June 2020, he got engaged to Norwegian personal trainer Emma Krokdal. He is almost 40 years older than his fiancée Emma. The couple had a gorgeous wedding at his villa in Mykonos on July 13th of 2023. Concerning health, in May 2023, Lundgren posted about the kidney cancer he has been suffering from since 2015. This is a challenge he has been going through in secret while still active in the film world. This kind of strength is typical of the action hero image he portrays. In February of 2024, he and Emma finally became United States citizens, which established a lifelong tie to the country that launched him to global fame. Even as he has experienced the highs and lows of life through the power of love, family, personal health struggles, as well as the security of personal safety, Dolph Lundgren has kept things in balance. This is, although he has become somewhat of an idol in the world of Hollywood. Over a decades-long Hollywood career, Dolph Lundgren has had his fair share of clashes, on-set tensions, and professional rivalries. While some stories have been blown out of proportion by fans and the media, a few of his run-ins with co-stars are well documented, giving us a glimpse into the fiery side of the action star behind the stoic exterior. Sylvester Stallone. Dolph Lundgren and Sylvester Stallone have one of the most fascinating pairings in action cinema, a combination of respect, success, and instances that were so fraught they nearly got out of hand. The saga between these two important figures has its roots in the mid-1980s, when Dolph Lundgren first arrived in Hollywood as Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. Stallone has stated that when he first met Dolph, he honestly didn't like him at all. Not as a person, but as an actor, because he was too damn good for the role as Rocky's menacing Soviet counterpart. Stallone told The Tonight Show that when Dolph arrived on set, it felt as though he were watching a real Terminator in front of him, going on to say he hated him at first sight because he looked so imposing and flawless on film. However, As brief as that initial impression was, it did not deter him from casting him, as Rocky IV went on to become one of the most famous ones in the series. So famous that it went down in history not only because of the Cold War setting it portrayed in the world of boxing, but also because of how realistic the fight scenes were. This has been shared by Stallone regarding one of the fight scenes in the film, where he asked Lundgren to punch him to make it look authentic. It went down so well that he ended up in the hospital with heart failure. He spent days in intensive care before going back to shoot. Jump forward a few decades, and there were still some bumps in their professional connection. On the set of The Expendables in 2010, Lundgren shared that Stallone, who also directed the motion picture, loudly shouted at him in a rehearsal for a particular scene in front of the whole cast and crew. Stallone allegedly forced him to do 20 takes, verbally condemning his performance in the presence of fellow actors, as well as foreign members of the media. This incident bothered Lundgren's pride so much that he left the film set during lunch, going so far as to call his wife, saying that he wanted to knock him out and walk away from the project entirely. According to Lundgren, Stallone kept him doing about 20 takes, loudly criticizing his performance in front of other actors and even the international press. The moment hurt Lundgren's pride so much that he left the set during lunch and called his wife, telling her he wanted to knock him out and quit the movie altogether. Then Stallone came up to me and apologized and wanted to proceed with the take, he continues. It's like a family argument, says Lundgren of the event. You know, where the arguments are always there as part of the relationship, the bad times as well as the good times. These two actors are on good terms today, to the point where they were excited to return to their Rocky experience together for Creed II. This is a journey from dislike to tough working conditions to many years working together, proving that relationships in Hollywood can be complicated, emotionally driven, and strong. Jean-Claude Van Damme. In action films of the 90s, perhaps nothing has been as widely discussed as an incident involving Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme that seemed like it could have been right out of real life, but contained a rather clever trick. When their film Universal Soldier hit theaters in '92, Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme were in attendance at the Cannes Film Festival for promotional appearances for their film. It wasn't simply their film that got public notice, but an air of rivalry that seemed to exist between Lundgren and Van Damme as they were photographed arguing and trading blows, through security's quick intervention to separate them. This was a rumor that had been circulating for years that these two action heroes hated each other's guts, particularly because Lundgren had a villainous character in the science fiction action film in which Van Damme had a hero character. It seemed that these performances had bled over into reality. However, the true matter of the altercation in Cannes is much more fascinating than this feud. Both individuals have stated that the altercation was planned to generate buzz around Universal Soldier. Van Damme had suggested it, based on interviews conducted with both actors, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Van Damme, Lundgren had already completed filming, but it hadn't even reached the level for it to be screened at Cannes. Yet, when Van Damme took it upon himself to recall a publicity stunt from a few years before, when Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger were spotted dancing at Cannes for an action film that caused a flurry of publicity, so he asked Lundgren to take a stroll down the steps of the red carpet, as if they had a bit of a conflict. "I agree," Lundgren said, and the two pretended to fight with the media around, arguing a bit, pushing, enough to create a believable scene, though not enough to cause any harm. Pictures were immediately taken, and the news spread, helping to generate international publicity for their movie before its release. Ever since, both actors have laughed about this stunt together instead of fighting about it. In fact, they have reunited for several projects after Universal Soldier. This includes Universal Soldier, Regeneration in 2009, Universal Soldier, Day of Reckoning in 2012, and Blackwater in 2018. This goes to show they have a good working relationship, What appeared to be a genuinely dramatic showdown between these two macho action heroes was in fact a bit of Hollywood showmanship. So effective, in fact, that it created a fictional feud, which still generates chatter to this day. Carl Weathers. When Rocky IV was being made in 1985, Dolph Lundgren and Carl Weathers had one of those awkward beginnings that Hollywood sometimes throws at actors who are suddenly thrown together under intense pressure. He had just been cast as the towering and intimidating Soviet boxer Ivan Drago, while Carl Weathers was returning as the fan favorite Apollo Creed, a hero audiences already loved. Although they were starring in one of the biggest films of the time, their early time on set wasn't exactly friendly, at least at first. At the start of filming, Lundgren had made clear things were tense between him and Weathers. The two didn't know each other, and Lundgren was new to Hollywood, a karate champion and engineer-turned-actor who hadn't built the same resume as Weathers. When Carl arrived on set in Las Vegas just 2 days before they were scheduled to shoot their famous fight scene, he came upon this massive blonde man who looked not just big, but genuinely dangerous. Weird moment, Lundgren thinks Weathers thought. Is this guy going to hurt me in real life? Which is a very human thing to think about someone new and big and untested, especially when you're about to film a brutal boxing match on camera. During those early days, Lundgren remained in character, as Drago even off-camera, walking around as the cold, intimidating fighter he played, which further added to that uncomfortable first impression. It wasn't like he and Weathers chatted or hung out between takes. In fact, they practically trained separately, so there wasn't an opportunity for friendship to grow naturally. Even Lundgren himself once admitted that they didn't talk much at first, and there was a little bit of tension between them. It's also true that Weathers had to film his character's on-screen death in the ring to Lundgren's Drago, a scene that was physically demanding and emotionally charged. In a way, the tension helped make the performance more convincing, since both men were portraying characters at opposite ends of the story's conflict. Their relationship did not stay cold, however. Years later, Lundgren did mention how he and Weathers met again during the film's premiere, and later at several conventions and public appearances. Over time, once the intensive weight of that fight scene and rehearsal period was finally in the rearview mirror, they became friendlier and respectful to one another. He described him as a really nice guy, and pointed out that they even showed up together at Comic-Con panels and other industry get-togethers moments that helped dissipate the ice that had been there in those earlier days. Still, Lundgren seemed to suggest that Weathers might have carried a little of the story with him, at least as a joke, saying Carl was a little bit sore about what happened in Rocky IV, while laughing that he did not write the script. Arnold Schwarzenegger. When the conversation is about the major action stars in the 1980s and 1990s, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Dolph Lundgren, or both, are bound to come up in the discussion. Dolph Lundgren is known for his martial arts skills in Rocky IV, while Arnold is renowned for his intense physique acquired in the sport of bodybuilding, showing that both their beginnings are associated with intensity or power in their respective fields. But in the end, both brought that attitude to their films in Hollywood. While Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone are rumored to have had animosity in their past, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Dolph Lundgren are known for their friendship instead. Lundgren has always spoken fondly about Schwarzenegger in interviews. In fact, during an interview with Fox News Digital, Lundgren remembered how he met Arnold several years ago, even before he attained a star status in Hollywood. They met way back in the early 1980s, when Lundgren was still developing his career as a bodybuilder and a Hollywood star, while Arnold had already established himself as a world star due to his performances in Conan the Barbarian and the Terminator movies, when he met Lundgren for the first time, where he was impressed by his talents, including encouraging him to enter movies as well. In the intervening years, the friendship between Lundgren and Arnold has remained strong. They've been spotted at gyms such as the renowned Gold's Gym in Venice Beach, which Arnold himself made famous for bodybuilders and actors. They've been doing their workouts there, with some claims of still doing so for Lundgren, while he himself fought the battle with cancer. What is intriguing, however, is how different the situation is from the historical rivalry that existed between Arnold and Stallone. Schwarzenegger and Stallone have faced each other in the media over the years. They have often tried to outdo each other for the same acting roles, box office sales in movie releases, and sometimes to claim superiority over the other through boasts about who possessed the best body or who appeared in the most explicit scenes. Both Arnold and Stallone have acknowledged the fact that the rivalry turned out to be ridiculous in the 1980s and 1990s. They would eventually go on to become very close friends. Lundgren's stance with Schwarzenegger, however, is one that he can only be considered a brother or a fan, and never a rival. He has mentioned Schwarzenegger and Stallone as inspirations for the roles that molded the concept of an action man. His association with Arnold does not seem to add to any controversy. Even when they have publicly appeared side by side, such as at professional gatherings or through social media interactions with other action stars, the dynamic between Schwarzenegger and Lundgren exudes warmth rather than any undertones of aggression. Fans have shared innumerable photos of them all appearing side by side with Sylvester Stallone, all of whom seem to have struck up a camaraderie. Jason Statham. When one hears about Jason Statham and Dolph Lundgren, one tends to associate those two with being part of the same group, since definitely not rivals, and the reason for this is due to their long-standing partnership within the Expendables series. While neither actor is unknown within the realm of action films, just like with all the Hollywood rivalries, there isn't any known drama between those two actors. They've worked together numerous times to fight off common enemies, just not each other. This was Statham's first team action with Lundgren. The pair met on The Expendables, 2010, written and directed by Sylvester Stallone, who starred as Lee Christmas's partner, Barney Ross. In this action-packed flick, Statham took on the character Lee Christmas, who was a knife-wielding expert, while Lundgren acted as Gunnar Jensen, a freelance but highly dedicated member of the squad. In this production, the cast featured a number of celebrities from action films. The two have been spotted in numerous Expendables movies together, including several sequels, as well as Expend 4 Buzz in 2023. The two actors played their parts in Expendables, where Jason took a bigger role in front of as well as behind the camera as a producer, while Dolph, as usual, played his role as a seasoned, philosophical warrior in their team. Being part of the same action series means a lot of work hours on location, fight training, and a lot of time spent together on screen. But there isn't a hint of any animosity between the two actors from publicly available sources. There aren't any interviews of Lundgren dissing Statham, nor any accounts of him being difficult to work with on location. In fact, it seems that both of these actors take a professional attitude toward their work, knowing that movies of this type involve a team effort. In fact, in his interviews about his experiences working with the franchise, Lundgren has spoken fondly of the camaraderie that the cast shared, reflecting on what it was like to get to meet and work with the action stars of different generations, including the likes of Stallone, Jet Li, and Statham. He compared the experience of being on the set to the bar scenes of the films. Paula Barbieri. Dolph Lundgren's first Hollywood relationship was with the American model and actress Paula Barbieri in the late 1980s. Although this part of his life appeared in the celebrity headlines of the 1980s, information about it is not as thoroughly documented as his subsequent liaisons. Dolph Lundgren was spotted with Paula Barbieri in public in 1987, which led to the couple being tandem celebrities when Dolph began to rise to fame in the movie industry. Celebrity gossip publications and tabloids at this time even hinted at some sort of turmoil within their romantic engagement. Older entertainment media, as well as biographies created as a collaborative effort of fans, included a few points referring to friction within the romantic engagement of Lundgren and Barbieri. This is a connection that happened before his rise to a regular Hollywood leading man. This occurred when he was still working his way up from a martial artist and engineer-turned-actor to mainstream film performances, with his personal life under media scrutiny by columnists wanting to connect him to popular models and actresses. It is also important to note that Paula Barbieri was involved in other high-profile celebrity cases, such as the O.J. Simpson reporting incident in the 1990s, but these were not related to her connection to Lundgren. The life of Paula Barbieri was marked by various controversies and relations that did not include Lundgren. Due to the fact that there is limited data available within the general public domain about Lundgren and Barbieri's breakup, very few biographical writers consider it to be anything more than another Hollywood romance that garnered publicity but failed to create an easily traceable path behind which its implications can now be found. Mentioned within general biographical information regarding Lundgren's life is his brief romance with Barbieri. In other words, while it seems that some of the older celebrity press may have suggested a rift between Lundgren and Paula Barbieri, there's not a clear, documented story of abuse and a feud between the two of them, only the type of rumorous gossip that seemed to be a normal byproduct of fame for new stars of the 1980s scene. Irwin Winkler. Among the more quirky controversies that Dolph Lundgren has been involved in, there has been one that did not involve another star, but a producer, which has arisen from the never-ending saga that is the Rocky or Creed franchise. In 2022, there were reports about a potential spin-off that would feature Dolph Lundgren's legendary character, Ivan Drago, whom he first portrayed as a Soviet boxer in Rocky IV. The controversy started as a reaction to Stallone sharing his concern in Instagram that Irwin Winkler, a longtime producer in the Rocky series, as well as his sons Charles and David, were attempting to create a Drago spin-off without involving him in the process first. Stallone described Winkler and his sons as parasites, going on to add that the characters in the Rocky series would never be exploited without showing respect for the original creators behind the series, while also stating that he hadn't been approached by Dolph Lundgren regarding the situation. His extensive association with the series was the cause for his dramatic reaction, because, although he is the writer, star, or director of various films in the Rocky series, he does not own the rights to the series. He sold those rights many years ago. What this means is that Winkler, who was involved in getting Rocky off the ground all those years ago, will have control over the creative direction of the series. Stallone has long complained about his lack of control. However, Lundgren quickly responded to the situation and lent his voice to the matter through his Instagram page, where he stated through a photo of the two of them and Stallone that there was no script, no director, and no agreement for the Drago film. In the process, he seemed to acknowledge that he also thought that the other actor, obviously referring to his co-star in the films, was going to be involved either as an actor and slash, or as an executive producer, as he stated that "I am still in touch with Mr. Balboa." The scene also illustrated how control and communication can lead to tension, even among very close and compliant individuals, as Lundgren and Stallone. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed getting into Dolph Lundgren's Hollywood stories, hit that like button, subscribe for more behind-the-scenes scoops, and don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss an update. Drop a comment below. Which feud shocked you the most?